In 2025, the crime action film Shattered, starring the award-winning actor Jung Woo, arrives with a powerful impact. The story follows a man whose younger brother dies suddenly. During his investigation, he discovers that his brother's death bears a shocking resemblance to the plot of a best-selling novel. The story begins with the heir of a Chaebol family being stabbed to death inside a villa, leaving the scene in complete chaos. Meanwhile, a man flees the scene in a panic and makes a call to his older brother from his car. However, the older brother, who is fast asleep, does not hear the ringtone. The next morning, Bae Min-tae sees a voicemail message left by his younger brother, Bae Suk-tae. In the message, Bae Suk-tae anxiously says that he has gotten into trouble and urges his brother to come home immediately. Bae Min-tae feels a headache coming on. He had sworn to stay away from gang affairs, but it seems his brother has caused trouble again. Bae Min-tae prepares to go to his brother's house but finds his co-workers blocking the company entrance, demanding unpaid wages. Bae Min-tae is a man of action, not words. He then picks up a tray and strikes the responsible person from behind, knocking him down, and pulls out a knife, threatening him to pay the owed money properly. Later, Bae Min-tae goes to an ATM and transfers 750,000 won to his sister-in-law. Since his brother is irresponsible, the support funds can only be provided by him, the older brother. However, when Bae Min-tae calls his sister-in-law, Moon-young, to confirm, no one answers the phone. Meanwhile, the police receive a report that the heir of the Chaebol family was stabbed in the villa and is now unconscious, with his fate unknown. A large number of prohibited items were also discovered at the scene. The lawyer of the Chaebol family specifically seeks out the police chief, hoping he will handle the matter discreetly. The lawyer also provides a key clue. A gang member named Bae Suk-tae was seen entering and leaving the villa. The police chief orders Detective Park to find the culprit within 3 days. Bae Min-tae rushes home only to find it empty. Calls to his brother go unanswered, and his sister-in-law cannot be reached either, giving him a growing sense of foreboding. Detective Park arrives with his team to investigate Bae Suk-tae's home and just misses Bae Min-tae, who is leaving. From the landlord, they learn that Bae Suk-tae frequently beats his wife, Moon-young.
그 뒤로 여기 찾아온 사람 없었고요.
있었지.
누구?
방금 전에 이 집 아저씨 그 형이라는 사람이 왔다 갔어.
아니, 그걸 왜 지금 얘기해요?
그럼 그걸 언제 얘기해?
Bae Min-tae goes to his former gang's territory to search for his brother. The boss, long hair, learns that Bae Suk-tae is missing but doesn't take it seriously. Assuming the guy probably caused trouble again and is hiding, Bae Min-tae asks whether Bae Suk-tae has recently been involved in causing trouble with the Three-Way Junction faction. However, faced with his persistent questioning, Longhair responds coldly, believing that since Bae Min-tae has left the gang, he no longer has the right to obtain information. Bae Min-tae states that he will personally investigate the Three-Way Junction faction. Hearing this, Longhair warns him that acting rashly could lead to unnecessary trouble.
저 형님한테 허락받아 온 거 아닌데.
그럼 왜 왔는데?
그냥 알고 계셔야 될 것 같아서요.
그렇지, 민태야. 야, 사회생활은 이렇게 하는 거야. 알려주고 도움 주고. 야, 너 예전처럼 내키는 대로 막 들이받고 그러면 안 돼. 너도 이제 이 세상 돌아가는 어떤 눈치를 좀 보고 살아야 될 거 아니냐. 안 그래?
예, 잘 알겠습니다.
Just as Bae Min-tae is about to leave, a former subordinate stops him, advising him not to continue searching for Bae Suk-tae, or the situation will only become more complicated. The next day, Bae Min-tae goes to the territory of the Three-Way Junction faction and finds an old acquaintance to inquire about Bae Suk-tae's whereabouts. The acquaintance recalls seeing Bae Suk-tae outside Longhair's karaoke bar a few days ago. Not long after, a woman walking her dog discovers a floating body in the lake. It is Bae Suk-tae. Bae Min-tae arrives to identify the body and silently vows to find the person who killed his younger brother. Bae Min-tae seeks out his former subordinate, Byung-kyu, hoping he will assist in investigating his younger brother killer. Byung-kyu worries that Longhair will be displeased if he finds out. Bae Min-tae does not want to put him in a difficult position and leaves. Later, he goes to the territory of the Three-Way Junction faction to find their boss, Snack Bar. When confronted by a subordinate blocking his way, Bae Min-tae kicks him to the ground, then pulls a metal pipe from his bag and charges into the crowd. However, outnumbered by the opposing side, Bae Min-tae quickly finds himself at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Byung-gyu arrives to support him and helps him escape the encirclement. The police discover that the last place Bae Min-tae was seen was inside Longhair's karaoke bar, and they confirm that room 9 is the crime scene, with the surveillance footage deliberately destroyed. However, the police also find that after Bae Min-tae's death, his wife, Moon-young, transferred all the money from his account into her own name. Tracking Moon-young's last phone call, the police discover that before her disappearance, she called a writer named Snack Barlin. The police locate the writer and question him. He clearly states that he has not spoken with Moon-young recently. He claims he hasn't seen Moon-young since last year. When the police press about the nature of their relationship, he explains that they met at a cultural center, where Moon-young attended a few of his classes, and there was no deeper connection beyond that. That night, the boss of the Three-Way Junction faction confronts Bae Min-tae alone, demanding to know why he caused trouble on his turf. Upon learning that Bae Min-tae's brother is dead, the boss immediately puts away his gun, stating that Bae Min-tae has targeted the wrong person and should instead question Moon-young. After returning home, the writer receives an anonymous email containing an audio recording of Moon-young.
천천히 이야기하셔도 돼요. 그 사람을 언제 처음 죽이고 싶다는 생각을 하셨는지.
그 인간이 잠들었을 때 얼굴을 빤히 보고 있으면 그런 생각이 들어요. 저 인간 눈이 계속 감겨 있으면 좋겠다. 그냥 저렇게 움직이지 않았으면 좋겠다. 한 번은 그 인간 몰래 집을 나갔는데 귀신같이 찾아내더라고요. 그때 생각했죠. 이 인간이 죽어야 여기서 벗어나겠구나. 죽었으면 좋겠다. 정말 죽었으면 좋겠다. 아니면 누가 죽여줬으면 좋겠다.
After listening to it, the writer asks a friend to trace the IP address of the email. Meanwhile, Bae Min-tae goes to the karaoke bar where Moon-young works, only to find the entrance blocked off by the police. He sends his subordinate Byung-gyu to gather information while he waits at a nearby restaurant. Byung-gyu soon returns and says that Bae Min-tae was indeed killed at the karaoke bar, and the police now suspect Moon-young is the murderer. At the same time, the writer also enters the same restaurant and asks a staff member about Moon-young's whereabouts. This scene was overheard by Bae Min-tae, who then secretly follows the writer to Moon-young's residence to observe his actions. Seeing the writer rummaging through the house freely, Bae Min-tae reveals himself and questions how the writer knows Moon-young. The writer tries to leave but is grabbed by Bae Min-tae. As the two are arguing, Detective Park also arrives at the scene to investigate, and everyone is taken to the police station for questioning.
그 집에는 왜 들어가셨어요?
연락이 안 된다 그래서 걱정돼가지고.
그래도 알 만큼 아시는 분이 그렇게 남의 집에 막 들어가면 어떡합니까? 그건 그렇고 그 작가님이 쓰신 책 있잖아요. 야행인가? 제목 맞나? 민영사.
예.
그 책 얘기 좀 해봐.
The police discover that a novel titled Night Walk written by the author shares many similarities with the case. He eventually died under mysterious circumstances, and the woman herself later vanished without a trace. This coincidence leads the police to suspect whether the author's novel is based on real events. However, the writer insists it is purely a work of fiction and not derived from reality.
근데 어떻게 하셨어요? 배석태가 죽게 되는 거. 그 책에 그렇게 나와 있다고 하지 않았나? 그 여자가 남자 죽이는 걸로.
Upon hearing this key information, Bae Min-tae immediately goes to Moon-young's home, picks up the copy of Night Walk from the table, and begins reading it. The next day, Bae Min-tae finds a student who attended the writer's lectures and asks if the writer ever mentioned that the novel's content was based on personal experience. The student says that during the lectures, the writer spoke as if he had experienced the events himself. He also remembers hearing that the female protagonist in the book led a difficult life, living for a long time with a man whose behavior was extreme, and frequently suffering serious harm. If the woman tried to escape, she was always chased by someone referred to as the Big Brother, which immediately makes Bae Min-tae think of himself. Meanwhile, the writer traces the IP address to a location in Cheongyangni and drives there immediately. Soon after, he meets a young man at a restaurant in Cheongyangni.
내가 누군지 알아요?
저 모르시겠어요? 작가님이 제 얘기도 썼잖아요. 여자에게는 온전하게 성장하지 못한 동생이 하나 있었다. 작가님이 그런 거죠. 해석태를 죽여야 된다고.
The writer emphasizes that he never expressed such intentions, but the other person does not accept his explanation. Even though the writer never directly said it, the story he crafted and the implications he made led Moon-young to mistakenly believe she had other options. It was the writer who gave Moon-young a glimmer of hope.
그 파일 어디서 났어요? 아니 문영이 지금 어디 있어요?
필요할 때 다들 나몰라라 하더니 왜 이렇게들 누나를 찾는 거야? 그냥 돌아가시죠.
The younger brother returned home, and Bae Min-tae came out of the bathroom, getting straight to the point.
누나 어딨어?
저 몰라요.
Bae Min-tae asked again where Moon-young's daughter, Soo-min, was. The younger brother remained silent, unwilling to reveal any information. Realizing he wouldn't get an answer from him, Bae Min-tae turned to Moon-young's friend, using his family as leverage to force him to disclose Soo-min's hiding place. Under pressure, the friend finally revealed an address. Following the lead, Bae Min-tae went to a restaurant and directly asked the owner if he knew Moon-young. Although he denied it, Bae Min-tae could tell from his eyes that he was lying, so he walked straight into the rooms behind the restaurant, searching each one, but still found nothing. Back in the restaurant, Bae Min-tae noticed a half-eaten plate of dumplings on one of the tables. Seeing the guilty looks in the eyes of the owner and his wife, he realized that Moon-young and her daughter had actually been right there just moments ago. Bae Min-tae immediately rushed out of the restaurant and searched carefully all around, but Moon-young and her daughter were already nowhere to be seen. Bae Min-tae picked up a gas cylinder, returned to the restaurant, and threatened them to immediately disclose Moon-young's whereabouts.
아는 언니 만나러 간다고 했어.
Meanwhile, the police discovered many of Moon-young's audio files on the KTV front desk computer. These might be the materials the writer used to create his novel. With the trail gone cold, Bae Min-tae sought out that student again, asking him about the novel's ending and where the woman went.
갔다면 어디로 갔을 것 같아?
누가 그런 거 물어본 적은 있었는데
예.
그 여자가 과거로 돌아갈 수 있다면 어디로 갔을까요?
알겠습니다, 형님.
그랬더니 그 남자 만나기 전이요.
Bae Min-tae ordered his subordinate to go to Moon-young's hometown. Another police officer listened to all of Moon-young's audio files.
배민태라고 형이 있는데 그 인간한테 무슨 일이 생기면 가만히 있지 않을 거예요. 동생 때문에 사람도 죽일 수 있어요.
그래서 뭐 어떡하려고?
강호령이랑 배민태 위치 추적 좀 해주세요. 그럼 차문영이 찾을 수 있을 것 같습니다.
At the same time, the writer also drove to Moon-young's hometown. On the way, Byung-gyu asked Bae Min-tae what he would do if it really was Moon-young who killed Bae Suk-tae.
그럼 뭐 석태 따라가야지.
Bae Min-tae went to the tea house where Moon-young used to work. As soon as he arrived, he started searching around and asked the owner about Moon-young's whereabouts. However, his aggressive attitude alerted two bouncers at the tea house, who immediately stepped forward to try and force Bae Min-tae out. Just as Bae Min-tae finished dealing with the two, the writer also arrived at the tea house. The owner secretly sent Moon-young a message, warning her that the person had come to the shop. This was noticed by the writer. Bae Min-tae pressed the writer, demanding to know why he was there and how he could have written about his younger brother's death in advance.
당신이 더 잘 알 거 아니야. 당신 동생이 어떤 사람이고 그동안 어떻게 살아왔는지.
그래서 죽이고 싶었던 거야?
배고파. 언니, 우리 문영 언니 왔는데 간만에 고기나 먹을까?
무슨 소리 하는 거야? 저기 청소나 해.
Seeing the situation, the owner had no choice but to confess she's at her house. With this information, Bae Min-tae immediately took the owner and headed straight for the destination. Meanwhile, the writer took the opportunity to pick up the owner's phone and called Moon-young, trying to get in touch with her. Led by the owner, Bae Min-tae arrived at her house, but it was empty inside. Byung-gyu, sitting in the car, quickly reported to Longhair, saying that Bae Min-tae had found Moon-young's hiding place. Upon learning this, Longhair immediately gave the order for Byung-kyu to formulate the next plan. Finding nothing, Bae Min-tae was about to question the owner when a police officer walked out and asked her what she was doing at her own home. Realizing he had been tricked, Bae Min-tae picked up a shovel and knocked him down. Elsewhere, the writer went upstairs in the tea house and saw a cup of steaming hot tea, realizing Moon-young had just left not long ago. Just then, a message arrived on the owner's phone. Moon-young said she was on her way to the bus terminal. Seeing this, the writer immediately set out. Bae Min-tae happened to pass right by him and immediately told Byung-kyu to turn the car around and give chase. At that moment, a car blocked their way. It was the bouncer bringing people for revenge. Bae Min-tae then pulled a steel pipe from his bag, rolled down the window, and violently beat the guy before driving away. At this time, Moon-young sat on a bench inside the terminal holding her daughter, lost in thought. That night, after Bae Suk-tae killed the Chaebol heir, he hurried to the KTV to ask Longhair for help. Hearing this news, Longhair frowned deeply. The Chaebol was someone they absolutely could not afford to offend. He had warned Bae Suk-tae more than once never to hand those things over to the heir. If the heir's father found out about this, all of them would be finished. But Bae Suk-tae just wouldn't listen, and ultimately caused a disaster. Longhair asked him why he killed the heir. Bae Suk-tae, full of regret, said he lost his temper because the heir said he was going to sleep with Moon-young, and that's why he stabbed him. Right then, the Chaebol called Longhair. Longhair answered and only said, "I understand." He then went to the front desk and took a screwdriver. Moon-young saw the scene and had already guessed what would happen next, but she did not try to dissuade. As if this was also what she had hoped for, long-haired brother walked into the private room and fiercely stabbed Bae Suk-tae in the neck. Long-haired brother called people to handle the body and gave Moon-young two choices, to end her pitiful life here or to live quietly. From that moment on, Moon-young began to flee everywhere, trying to avoid all people who might find her. The writer rushed to the station and looked around for Moon-young's figure. Bae Min-tae followed closely behind. The police located the positions of the two through mobile phone signals. Detective Park led the officers to quickly arrive at the station. In the waiting hall, the writer and Bae Min-tae almost simultaneously discovered Moon-young. At this moment, Byung-kyu stabbed a knife into Moon-young's abdomen, and upon looking up, his eyes met Bae Min-tae's. Byung-kyu's expression instantly turned terrified, and he was so scared that he ran away. Bae Min-tae angrily snatched a taxi and gave chase. After Bae Min-tae successfully intercepted Byung-kyu, he pulled open the car door and asked him why he did it, whether it was ordered by long-haired brother. Facing Bae Min-tae's questioning, Byung-kyu could only say sorry in a low voice. All along, Bae Min-tae thought that Moon-young was the murderer who killed his younger brother, but now it seems that the real murderer is long-haired brother. Bae Min-tae came to long-haired brother's turf. The gang's second-in-command knew that the other party meant no good, and advised him to go back. Bae Min-tae, however, knocked him down with a wine bottle, took out a steel pipe and engaged in a fight with the arriving underlings. After dealing with all the underlings, Bae Min-tae sat down in front of long-haired brother.
여기까지 어쩐 일이냐?
형님 얼굴 보러 왔죠?
뭐 보고 싶은 얼굴이라고 멀리까지 찾아와.
그러게. 왜 석태 아랫돌이 어디 있습니까?
죽은 동생 얼굴 봤으면 됐지 뭘.
After eliminating long-haired brother, Bae Min-tae used his phone to call the Chaebol. Thus the film ends. Thank you for your silent companionship, and we look forward to walking into the next story with you.